On this episode of Locked On Angels, Kyle Hendricks is a very unique pitcher, and Johnny, he knows it. We're going to share why he needs to know that, why it's important to his game, and how it impacts his approach. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube and leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
It's our fourth season here as the host of Locked On Angels, gearing up for 2025. We're excited. We're ready to be disappointed. Whatever may come, Michael, we're ready for it. And we're here talking Angels baseball 5 days a week with you, Monday through Friday, every single weekday. On today's show, we're talking about Kyle Hendricks, how he's a very unique pitcher. He knows it. Wash shared how he evaluates his pitchers. But first, Mike, can we be done with José Suarez, please?
Yeah.
How did we even get here? Because we were all geared up to talk about Kyle Hendricks and his start, but he ended up having an exhibition game, didn't he?
Yeah, he was scheduled to start in this game, but the Angels had him start an exhibition game against the Asian Breeze. That's not the new city that the A's are in. It's actually a showcase traveling team.
It's not a LaCroix flavor?
No. That actually sounds delicious. This team helps players to get recognized by professional scouts. Kyle Hendricks went 5 innings in this game, which I know it's the Asian Breeze. It's not a major league team, but John, that's a great sign for somebody getting ready for the season. Sure. I shared yesterday that I'd love to see Kyle Hendricks go 5 against major league caliber talent. These guys aren't necessarily that, but going 5, I think, is really important. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Kyle Hendricks in segment 2. So if he wasn't going to be starting the major league game, they decided to start José Suarez, didn't they, Johnny?
Yeah, it was supposed to be Kyle Hendricks against the Rangers. They had that hat taken off the market. I was going to say the name, but I don't think I'm allowed to say that, Mike.
I don't think you are either. I think the Angels hats have been taken off the market too.
Yeah, they need to be.
Terrible. Awful.
So it was José Suarez started this game. Here's how it went, Michael, and I'll put a graphic up on the screen for those on the video side. It started like this: home run, fielding error, single, walk. Suarez gets replaced, comes back out for the second inning. Put the graphic up there for you. Ground out, single, homer, walk, fly out, and single.
Yeah.
Then he got replaced again. And if you're on the audio side, Mike, can you describe those first couple at bats and how hard they were hit against José Suarez?
Let me just read the exit velocity, even on the plays that were outs, okay? So 110 miles an hour, 108 miles an hour, 107 miles an hour, 107 miles an hour. 105, 103, 106, 113, Woo! And then 65. That was a ground out. John, he was getting rocked in this game, and they were hitting him hard. He was not fooling anybody in this game. And my question to you is, does this mean anything for José Suarez being on this team, or are the Angels just blind to his ridiculousness?
Yeah, it's blackmail. That's the only answer that possibly makes sense. It's blackmail. Mike, here's the thing. When he came back at the end of last season, he was throwing the fastball maybe 94, 95, 96. And it was like, that's new.
Yeah.
And he had, a decent look at the end of the season out of the bullpen. And now I look at the number. We finally have StatCast numbers because they were at the Rangers Park. And he's sitting 92, 93, like nothing significant. And look, I know he lost the weight. I know he tried to get in shape and do all that stuff. Should have done that a long time ago, bud. I'm sorry. But to come out there and stink it up like this, 2/3 of an inning overall, right? He went in there, got pulled. So he only got 2 outs.
Right.
6 hits, 6 runs, 5 earned, 2 walks, 2 home runs. And again, those exit velocities, absolutely ridiculous. All but one was a hit. The other was an error. Is this it for José Suarez? Can we be done? Can we send Suarez to Juarez? There's a Mexican league team in Juarez. So how about that? Can we send him there?
Everything we're saying here, everydayers know, Angel fans know. I don't understand why he's on this team, and it makes it an easy move to just DFA him. They did it last year. Nobody wanted him. So if you want to keep him, you can just put him on that AAA roster and let him kind of waste away to practically nothing down there, right? And so I just don't see any reason, any benefit keeping him here, keeping him on this team. I get that you need to have somebody that comes in to be a long reliever, maybe clean up the mess, or if it's a huge lead, then you utilize that pitcher in those moments, the Jaime Barria role that he's played in the last few years for the Angels, John. But gosh, there's got to be 15 other guys that can play that role. Maybe this is why you keep Kahanowitz on the team and keep him fresh. That's Reed Detmers, right? Reed Detmers can do that. It just doesn't make sense, John, to have this guy anywhere near the major league roster.
That's the thing is I understand there's a balance of well, you want to keep Reed Detmers or Kahanowitz still getting starts and having that starter mentality. But like you said, Mike, there's a million guys who would easily take that role that José Suarez is in. And it's kind of a sucky role. You got to mop up or you got to keep the lead in an eight run game, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not the flashiest, sexiest position in the world, right? But at the same time, it's just there's a million other guys that the Angels could go to and have somebody so much better than José Suarez. So it's just ridiculous.
I'll take Chase Silseth in that role. I mean, give me Chase because he struggles with going deep into games. So if he's asked to go 3 innings or 4 innings, perfect. That's great for him, right? And then he can build up some arm strength. And I just don't see any reason to keep this guy around. And the joke is there's blackmail, right? But it feels like the Angels aren't seeing what everybody else is seeing. And if they're going to do what is necessary to make the playoffs, because that's what Artie gave as marching orders to Perry Manassian, José Suarez is not the guy that's going to be a part of any sort of success for you in 2025. This is just silly that he's still on this team. And I don't know why. I mean, yesterday was a perfect example of why this guy shouldn't be around at all, but he continues to hang on and hang on and hang on. And we have no idea why.
I saw a lot of responses I'm glad he's getting lit up. Because this needs to be the nail in the coffin for,
and he'll get lit up in the regular season. And I hope and I hate to have the Angels lose those games, but I hope that they suffer great consequences because it has to be you almost have to really irritate management and Perry in order to move them on. So I hope that he blows leads. I hope, you know what I mean? I'm hoping that all of these things are true, and it'll be frustrating for us as fans, but if it means that they actually do something and not let this guy stay on the roster, then yay, thank you. I'll take a couple of losses if it means that we lose him.
Well, and he's not even a Perry Manassian guy.
No.
It was a Billy Epler pick signing, so it doesn't make any sense to hang on to somebody like this. And look, we've said it before. If about other players, they go somewhere else and they become Cy Young contender, more power to them.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen here, and it's probably not going to happen anyway. So it's time to cut ties with Patrick Sandoval, for goodness sake, and Griffin Canning. I would take Griffin Canning out of the bullpen over José Suarez.
I would take both of those guys over José Suarez. And we've done this show now for 4 years. I don't think we've ever done a positive segment on José Suarez. We've done a positive segment on Griffin Canning. We've done a positive segment on Patrick Sandoval. There is not once, even when he was hitting 96, you said, "Oh, it's interesting. We'll see what happens." Yeah. It wasn't even in the affirmative of him. It was maybe he slipped, or maybe
this happened.
maybe something took place, but we've never done a positive segment. And listen, like you said, more power to him. If he goes off and figures it out somewhere else, go to Tampa. They'll figure you out, and you be incredible. And you're a young guy, and you're not making much money, so go and figure that out there, and leave us be, because this is irritating.
Well, I think he's being very well compensated,
right?
Even for his status and what he's able to do. Right. Now, let's move on to some more positive things, and that is Nolan Schanuel continuing to improve. He's starting to hit a little bit more, figuring out that new approach. We discussed him last week, working on his bat speed and his strength, My contention is that he needs to shorten up that swing. And early in the spring, he was struggling with his timing, catching everything out in front. But over the last few games, Mike, it seems like he's found his swing. He went 1 for 2 in this game with a walk, had an RBI double to right with an exit velocity of 104.1 miles per hour. Only 2 hits that he had last year were harder than that last year. And so that's a good sign, right? 104.1. And I was trying I believe it was Andres who brought up the fact that his hands might have been a little lower or something like that in our YouTube comments. And so I went back to look. What I've noticed is he's very choosy about a leg kick. I found some highlights from last year of Nolan Shawnuel, and in some of them, he's hitting a home run and there's a leg kick, and in some of them, there's not a leg kick. I looked at the RBI double from yesterday, and there was a leg kick. So I'm just trying to find what's the consistency there between Nolan Shawnuel and the bat speed and also his timing. Maybe he's going to implement that leg kick more to keep his time. Maybe because he is out in front with his new timing and his new swing and his bat speed, maybe that leg kick kind of stalls things for him a little bit and allows him to time a really good hit off the bat.
It feels as though there are some major adjustments that these hitters are making this spring that I got to tell you, after watching this team for as long as I've watched this team, I haven't seen this many adjustments.
Like in such a short amount of time?
Yes. Like the leg kick conversation, we've had multiple conversations about that. And then we have a hand placement conversation. Even Mike Trout, there was a great screenshot. I think it was Jared Timms of Talking Halos. Had Mike Trout's hand placement last year at the start of the year, and then had his hand placement like at the start of spring, and then his most recent home run. And his most recent home run, his hand placement was more Shohei Ohtani-like, where it was kind of up and higher than his head. And before that, the bat was a little bit more curved and his hands were a little bit more at an angle. So I've seen a lot of that happening this spring. And I think that is credit to Johnny Washington. John, you and I talked often about how we didn't see a lot of adjustments with previous coaches on this team, but with Barry Enright and the pitchers, we see it a lot. Now we're starting to see the Johnny Washington effect and the Tim Laker effect, who is also a part of helping these guys and their approach. I think it's actually having an impact. Just little adjustments, little tweaks. It goes a long way. John, you're seeing that with somebody like Mickey Moniak this spring. He had a second home run yesterday. Now, he is just batting .233, but he does have 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. And this is what I'm really paying attention to, an .814 OPS so far this spring. And we know that Moniak needs a lot of at-bats to get going. And so I think that this start in spring is a good sign for Moniak that if he can get 50 to 60 at-bats, we'll see that batting average continue to rise, maybe in the 250, 260 range, and we'll see that OPS hover around the 800 to maybe 820 range, which I think is a very Moniak-like number.
For Moniak to have an 814 OPS, that tells you that the on-base percentage is up there, and the slugging percentage is good. So I know it's a 233 average, but what's happening is he's getting on base via the walk, and he's also making the quote unquote the very few hits that he does have count, because that slugging percentage is up there as well. The Angels reassigned the right-handed pitcher Sean Anderson to minor league camp. Remember, he's the guy that I went, when did they get him? And then so that happened earlier in February. Just a modest AAA guy that, you call up in case of emergency, or you have a doubleheader and you need that extra arm or something like that. So nothing too flashy about that, but he has been assigned to minor league camp. And so he'll stick around the roster, it seems like, for the foreseeable future. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up on the show, Kyle Hendricks is very unique. He knows it. We know it. The team knows it. That's important because it impacts how he prepares for his starts. We'll share with you what Hendricks, sorry, not Kendrick. I always do that. We're going to share with you what Hendricks does to get ready every 5th day. We'll talk about that coming right up.
I love that it's baseball season, John. We're not too far away from going to games, watching our team, and eating our favorite snack at baseball games, watching the Angels, and that is Wonderful Pistachios, right, Johnny?
Can I tell you, you guys know I'm in dad mode now, and there was just no time to eat a significant lunch yesterday. So I had a bag of the sweet chili, wonderful pistachios,
Ooh.
and I downed that bag like really fast. I was feeding the baby and eating pistachios at the same time.
Nice. Well, they are one of the highest protein nuts out there. Each 1 ounce serving gives you 6 grams of protein and over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep going all day long. And Johnny, with a new baby, you need to keep going.
I need all the
long.
help I can get. That's for sure.
John, it was the no shell that you were eating the other day, right? And the no shell is a favorite of mine, but the in shell is actually your favorite. At baseball games, Angel games, you get to open them up. You're a fidgeter. You got a little bit of undiagnosed ADHD. So do I, right? That's the best way to watch Angel games. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs the protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And every day, we want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. It's time to talk about Kyle Hendricks, kind of a surprising signing over the off season. Easy for me to say.
Mm-hmm.
But last year was a pretty difficult one for Kyle Hendricks. He posted a 5.92 ERA across 24 starts. 7 starts into the season, he was sent to the bullpen for a month. After his month in the bullpen, he threw 5 2/3 innings, only gave up 1 earned run with 8 strikeouts in his first start back. And from there, Mike, Hendricks started trending in the right direction, didn't he?
Yeah, he made 17 starts after that stint in the bullpen and had an ERA of 4.73, 3 of those starts being blow-ups of 6 runs or more. So of the 17, 14 were actually quality starts. 3 of them were not great, which is why the ERA was a bit under 5. But he finished the season on a high note, John, and this is what attracted the Angels to him. He pitched to a 2.89 ERA in his last 5 starts in September. And Hendricks said that he got back to kind of who he is at the end of the season, and he wants to continue to improve on that. So over the offseason, he did change his routine. One of the things that he said is he really attacked how he goes about things. And he says, I feel good about being in that spot and what I did. So what is that routine? Well, Hendricks said it's preparing himself to be extra aware of the hitter's tendencies and how he matches up, because Hendricks is not a typical pitcher, right? He's not a typical starter. He doesn't do what typical pitchers do. Typical pitchers get outs with high velocity and strikeout rates, but Hendricks has to throw a sinker because of his low velocity on his fastball. He averages 87.6 miles an hour on his sinker compared to the league average of 93.8. He also has a 15% strikeout rate compared to the league average of 22.2. And all of this leads Hendricks to having an extra awareness of the hitter's tendencies and matchups to build a successful game plan as he prepares for his starts.
Yeah, Ron Washington said that Hendricks is successful because he manipulates the baseball. He said that he will see that there's an opportunity for him to shoot that fastball in a certain area because he knows he's got a hitter looking someplace else, and he takes advantage of it. That's pitching, and he is a pitcher. Hendricks said, I'm trying to break down the hitter. I'm looking at it from a game perspective. Is he aggressive, patient in an 0-0 count? Is he, looking for something specific in a specific kind of count? Is he staying away from slugging the ball? Just playing baseball is how Hendricks put it.
Yeah, Perry Manassian said they signed Hendricks because they believe in him. He said that in the not too distant past, he's had some outstanding years. Doing the work on him and what he brings to the clubhouse, we believe that he can be very productive for us. He's going to bring a lot to the club. We're excited to have him. And Hendricks said, I expect myself to show up every single day and be a great teammate. I'm super excited about this opportunity. Excited to get to know those guys around me. Both Wash and Perry believe that he's not just going to be a leader, but a performer for the Halos this year. So, John, the question to you is, do you believe, Perry and Wash, that he's going to be not just a leader, but a performer?
Yeah, I want to start with the leader aspect of it. And, it was sort of kind of the MO of the offseason, but not really solidified until they signed Kenley Jansen to close games that, the Angels want to surround the young guys with some really great been there, done that veterans. Kyle Hendricks is one of them. Travis d'Arnaud is one of them. And Kenley Jansen is one of them. And I would say that d'Arnaud is still one of the best backstops in the game. And Kenley Jansen is still one of the top closers in the game, right? Headed to a Hall of Fame career. I mean, not before K-Rod. He better not get in before
Right.
K-Rod. I'll be upset. But all of that to say, I think that Hendricks, what I have seen and heard from him this spring training is there's an air about him, Mike, where he has a really strong leadership quality. I've loved everything that he has had to say so far. There's been some great, interviews that he's done that I've seen floating around Twitter and everything. And he just seems like a genuinely good guy. Now, to hear him say that how he is preparing is knowing each hitter's tendency, I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that gets missing more and more from this game. I think it's why he's had success in the past. And I think it's why he's going to have success with the Angels this season. Not being a guy who overpowers people, not being a high strikeout guy, though I will say he's looked good in terms of strikeouts this spring. But that's probably because he has been studying the hitter tendencies, knowing when they're going to chase, what they're going to chase, things like that. Mike, it sounds to me like he is an avid user of Baseball Savant, which really excites me, but I'm sure it goes deeper than that. I'm sure that there's a department handling that for him. But at the same time, I think it's really cool that that's how he approaches each game and each hitter. And I think that's going to be to his benefit and also the Angels' benefit this well. I'm excited to see him pitch. Look, I know that there's a lot of conversation, and we'll get into that next up of, why not Kohanowitz? Why not Detmers? Like, why are these veteran guys getting the opportunities over the young pitchers? But I just think that there is so much that Hendricks has to offer to the young guys. That's why he's around. And I think he's got a lot to offer on the mound that's going to help them be successful. And it gives those young guys a chance to get around his leadership and give them another year to work on stuff and develop and learn from him and absorb information. So I think that's going to be a big part of what he has to offer. What do you think happens with Hendricks this season? Is it like modest projections? Do you think he'll surprise people? Do you think he'll be as bad as he was last season? I know he was recovering from an injury. What do you think is going to happen with him this season?
I think Hendricks is going to be similar to Jared Weaver's final years with the Halo, with the Halos, because Weaver had to become a pitcher those last few years. And he was a great pitcher for us. But the last couple of years, he had to really be smart in what he threw because he didn't have a strong fastball. He had a lot of great off-speed stuff. And so I think that that's probably what we'll see from Kyle Hendricks. And I think that's okay because those crafty pitchers are the ones that can catch you off guard and suddenly they've gone 6 innings and they gave up just 1 earned run. And so I think that we're going to see a few of those games from Kyle this year. And if his track record is any indication, 17 starts in the second half of last year, 14 of them quality starts, 3 of them not great. I think I will take those. I will take those odds, and I will be appreciative for a 5th starter who's a veteran that is going deep into games, 5 innings, 6 innings, maybe even 7 innings. That's a strike 1 guy and is a guy that chases strike 3, that isn't chasing like, I'm going to throw this out of the zone and see what happens. I'm excited to see that because it's going to keep the defense on their toes and it's going to keep the game moving forward. And if the Angels are struggling with scoring, Hendricks can come into an inning and not have them sit on the bench for a really long time because he's a guy that is continuing to throw strikes. So I would say modest numbers. If anything, a 500 win-loss record. I would say maybe a mid-4 to low-4 ERA. What he's done so far this spring, though, is, let's just say it out loud, he's been their best starter. He's been the guy that has done really well, and he has really picked apart the offense that has come up against him. And so I know it's spring, and I know that there's a lot of caveats to that, but what we're seeing is a very good, focused, consistent pitcher all throughout spring training. And if he can carry that into the regular season, I will be excited about our fifth starter, because it's not going to be a hole in our starting rotation. It's not going to be a game where we got to figure out how to get José Suarez in the game, right, to be able to handle everything. Like, we're not going to have to do a long relief moment. I just think that we have set ourselves up for a bit more success. Now, does this make us super successful? That is yet to be seen, and I think we have a lot of questions about that.
Sure.
But Hendricks and what he brings to this team, I think, is only positive, and his influence is only positive, and I think his impact on the field will only be positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we're due for a guy who comes out of nowhere and has some success with the Angels.
Yeah.
And I think that Kyle Hendricks could certainly be that guy.
Everydayers, get the supplies that you need from the site that's made for skilled trades. It's supplyhouse.com. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. And their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts and over 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros, this is especially great for you. You can get an extra edge. Their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals have already taken advantage of this. Now it's your turn. Just join their trade program by visiting supplyhouse.com/TM. That's supplyhouse.com/TM. You can start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. And then you can use our promo code SH5 for 5% off your order. Visit supplyhouse.com.
Let's have a conversation here, Michael, about the fifth starter. Not to say the fifth guy in the rotation, but just who's going to get the 5 spot. There's 4 spots that are obviously taken, and there's one more to be given. So let's talk about that. Wash gave us some insight recently on what he's looking for to help him make that decision of who's going to be in this rotation. He said, I got 3 things I like to apply. The number 1 thing is listening. And according to Wash, Jack Kohanowitz listened very well last year. He learned very well last year, and he applied very well. I just want that to continue. I want him to absorb all the wisdom and the knowledge that's floating around him this camp. I want him to learn from it, and I want him to start applying it. And he did that last year, so there's no reason why that shouldn't continue. He's going to get an opportunity to show that. So we talk about Kohanowitz a lot, someone that we're a big fan of. We had the question a couple Fan Mail Fridays ago of, hey, if Kohanowitz and Detmers both had equally good spring trainings and it just came down to who's got it, both of us said Reed Detmers just because of he's been there before. It's the experience. He's got the stuff to be a major league guy. And if hypothetically he came out of spring looking good, he'd be our go-to so that Kohanowitz could, maybe go to AAA, work on some things. But with Wash saying all of this about Kohanowitz, learning, applying, absorbing, could the same be said about Reed Detmers?
I like that Wash simplifies everything. First of all, I want to make a comment about that, right? Like, and that he gives us the 3 things. Number 1 is listening, but I love the listen, learn, apply.
Yeah.
John, I haven't seen that from Reed. And I know that Reed has had a pretty good spring, but it still feels like there are some things that he is working out, and maybe it's because he's trying some things out, and more power to him. That's what you should do in spring training. But what we've seen from the new batch of guys, specifically the new batch of pitchers, is listen, learn, apply. There's no excuses. There's no, I was doing everything right. I think about José Suarez. He was somebody who had no idea what was wrong. He was like, I was doing everything great. Actually, I thought I pitched really well in one of his terrible outings last season when he gave up a bunch of runs, right? And we've talked about Reed Detmers having moments where he's like, I'm not sure what I'm doing. It does sound like he's starting to figure some of those things out.
Yeah.
I think that if Reed Detmers is your last starter in this rotation, I think it would be wise to have Travis d'Arnaud be his catcher.
Yeah.
And
That
I
seems
think
to be working well.
I think that that's going to be a benefit to him. And then it gives Logan O'Hoppe an opportunity to get off his feet. It also gives Logan O'Hoppe a chance to take a break. Maybe his mind goes, mind rests, right? And he's got 4 guys that he is concerned about. And then you have d'Arnaud be Reed Detmers' guy. Mm-hmm. And I think that could potentially, if Reed is going to be your 5th starter, that could potentially change the game and change the narrative for him, because it won't just be Reed trying to figure some things out. It'll be Travis d'Arnaud helping him to listen, learn, and apply. And here's why I'm convinced of that. When he pitched, Reed Detmers pitched in his last outing. It was the last 4 innings of a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
He pitched really well, gave up 4 hits, struck out 4, didn't walk anybody. Chucky Robinson was the catcher.
Yeah.
Did you notice after every final out, Chucky walked up the line and waited for Reed, and they immediately had a conversation.
Yeah.
Chucky pulled out his earpiece and waited for him, and they talked about what he just threw.
Yeah.
Travis d'Arnaud has done some of those things as well.
Yeah.
I think that if Reed is going to be solved, Reed is going to be fixed, you need 2 heads on the field and 3 heads total, including Barry Enright. I don't think it's going to be Reed Detmers. If Jack Kohanowitz is your 5th starter, Jack seems to be a guy who just needs 1 head, right? He just needs to listen, learn, and apply. He gets it. He needs his mind and only his mind. With Reed, I think you need a couple of minds that really help him walk through, identify some things, talk him through some things. And so that same could be applied to Reed. I just think that he's going to need some extra help based off of what we've seen so far this spring.
Yeah, I'm fully in agreement with him being paired up with Travis d'Arnaud because he needs that experience, Mike. It wasn't there last season between Matt Thaiss and Logan O'Hoppe, and no disrespect to those guys, they're just young and they just haven't been around like a d'Arnaud or even a Kurt Suzuki type, right? Like it's those types of guys. And you think about oh man, who was our AAA guy? The catcher that
Chad Wallach.
Yeah, Chad Wallach caught Reed's no-hitter, which was kind of a cool part of the no-hitter that we don't talk about often. And I know that he has been in the minor leagues most of his time, but he was the experienced guy that we counted on, and as a catcher, even though he was a backup. So to hear that about d'Arnaud and to hear that about Robinson gives me I'm excited that Robinson is the 3rd string guy, if that makes sense, because I think that he also brings a lot of experience to the table, despite not being, the hot bat or anything like that. He's not going to be that guy. He's going to be good for the rotation. So yeah, when it comes to Detmers, it's going to take a lot of, for lack of a better word, like coddling to get him right. But perhaps that's what it's going to take to get Detmers to finally believe in himself, trust his stuff, and be the pitcher that everyone seems to think that he can be.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball with our friends Dom and Matt. MLB Fantasy Draft is here, and you can be the most informed fan and set yourself up for a league win. You can find Locked On Fantasy Baseball on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show. Find it on YouTube. Get in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. Mike, what do we have on deck for Thursday's show?
Johnny, speaking of listening, learning, and applying, there's some questions about Caden Dana and what happened this spring. He knows, and he shared it, and we're going to share what he knows tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, it better be something about release point, or I'm going to be furious tomorrow on the show. All right, friends, we hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
Furious. Frustrated, fired up, frantic.
Locked On Angels.